I arrived at Bennett Technologies earlier than usual, carrying two things that made me smile every time I looked at them. One was a presentation that represented 3 years of sleepless nights. The other was a small gift box hidden inside my briefcase. Today was supposed to change everything. By sunset, I believed I would finally become vice president. Tonight, Victoria and I would celebrate our 3rd wedding anniversary. Nobody inside the company knew we were husband and wife. That had been our decision from the day she became CEO. It has to stay private, she had told me years ago. People need to believe every promotion is earned. I had agreed without hesitation. I'll wait as long as it takes, I had promised. And I had. I turned down interviews from other companies. I rejected higher-paying offers. I worked weekends without complaint. Whenever someone praised Victoria's leadership, I felt proud because I knew how hard she worked behind closed doors. I never imagined that loyalty could become invisible. Marcus walked into my office carrying 2 coffees. "You look confident," he said. "I finally slept 8 hours." He laughed. "So today's the day?" "I think so. You don't sound excited." "I don't want to celebrate too early." Marcus placed 1 coffee on my desk. "Ethan, you led the Chicago expansion." "I did." "You negotiated the Dallas merger." "I did." "You saved the Phoenix contract." "I remember." "So unless this company has lost its mind, you're about to become vice president." I smiled. "I hope you're right." He studied my face. "You still haven't told Victoria about the anniversary surprise?" "I wanted it to be a surprise." "You really love that woman." "I do." "Then I hope she remembers what she's got." His words stayed with me as we walked toward the executive conference room. Every department manager was already seated. Victoria stood near the large screen, confident as always. She looked beautiful in a navy business suit. For a second, our eyes met. She gave me a polite smile. Not the smile she gave me at home, the professional one. I reminded myself why. No one could know. The meeting began. Victoria thanked every department for another successful quarter. Then she opened the final slide. "As many of you know," she said, "our growth requires stronger executive leadership." The room became perfectly quiet. My heartbeat quickened. This promotion has been carefully considered. Marcus nudged my elbow. I took a slow breath. Victoria continued. "Leadership is more than results." Something about her tone felt unfamiliar. It requires vision, confidence, and the ability to inspire others. She looked toward the second row. "I am pleased to announce our new vice president." My hands tightened beneath the table. "Ryan Brooks." The room exploded with applause. I didn't clap. I couldn't. Ryan stood with a wide smile before walking toward the front. "Thank you, Victoria," he said. "This means more than you know." She smiled warmly. "I know you'll do an excellent job." Every word echoed inside my head. Ryan had returned to Bennett Technologies only 4 months earlier. I had trained him. I had shared my reports with him. I had even defended him when other managers questioned his experience. Marcus leaned closer. "What is happening?" I couldn't answer. Victoria raised her hand again. "I also want to recognize Ethan Carter." People turned toward me. My chest tightened. Ethan's work has been invaluable. For one hopeful second, I thought there was another announcement. Instead, she said, "Ryan will need your experience during the transition. I trust you'll continue supporting him for the good of the company." More applause. Ryan walked toward me with his hand extended. "I couldn't have done it without your guidance." I forced myself to shake his hand. "Congratulations." "Thanks, buddy." Buddy. That single word hurt more than I expected. The meeting ended. Employees surrounded Ryan. People congratulated him. Nobody looked at me. Marcus grabbed my arm. "Come outside." We stood on the empty balcony overlooking downtown Boston. He folded his arms. "Tell me I'm missing something." "I don't know. This wasn't about qualifications." "I know. This was humiliation." "Marcus." "No." His voice became sharper. "You built this company's biggest projects. I did my job. You deserve that promotion." I looked toward the conference room window where Victoria and Ryan were laughing with senior executives. Maybe she had reasons. Marcus stared at me. "What reasons?" "I haven't asked." "You shouldn't have to." I stayed silent. He sighed. "I've known you for 10 years." "I know." And I've never seen you make excuses for anyone except her. I love my wife." He froze. Then he remembered where we were. His voice dropped to a whisper. "And that's exactly why this hurts." I didn't answer. Because he was right. That evening I stopped by a florist before driving home. White lilies. Victoria's favorite. I also picked up the small velvet box from my briefcase. Inside was a silver bracelet engraved with today's date. 3 years together. I unlocked our front door and stepped inside. The house was quiet. I placed the flowers on the dining table beside the wrapped gift. The clock moved past 7, then 8, then 9. Finally, my phone buzzed. "I'm having dinner with Ryan and the executive team. Don't wait up. We'll celebrate another day." I read the message 3 times. No apology. No explanation. Just another day. I looked at the anniversary flowers, then at the empty chair across from me. This morning I believed I was about to receive the promotion I had earned. Tonight I sat alone, wondering why the woman I loved had chosen another man over me in front of the entire company, and whether our marriage had started breaking long before I noticed the first crack. 3 days passed before Victoria finally came home before midnight. She stood in the kitchen doorway while I washed a coffee mug. "Ethan?" I turned off the faucet. "You're home?" "I've been calling." "I know. Why didn't you answer?" "I needed some quiet." She stepped closer. "Are you still upset about the promotion?" I let out a slow breath. "Do you really have to ask?" It wasn't personal. It felt personal. It was a business decision. I looked at her. Ryan had been back for 4 months. "I know. I've been here for 3 years. I know. I built the expansion. I know. So help me understand." She folded her arms. "Ryan has executive presence. And I don't." "I didn't say that. You didn't have to." She rubbed her forehead. "Ethan, please don't make this about us." "How can I not?" She looked away. The company needed someone who could lead publicly. I've been leading teams for years. You've always preferred working behind the scenes. Because we agreed to keep our marriage secret. Silence filled the room. Finally she whispered, "I thought you'd understand." "I've spent 3 years understanding." She reached for my hand. "I still believe in you." I gently pulled my hand back. "I needed you to believe in me 3 days ago." She left the kitchen without another word. I stood there until the coffee in my mug became cold. The next week felt endless. Ryan called me into meetings. "Ethan, could you review this report?" "Ethan, can you prepare tomorrow's presentation?" "Ethan, you've handled these clients before." Every request reminded me whose title appeared on the office door. Marcus watched everything. One afternoon he closed my office door. "Tell me something." "What?" "Has Victoria explained anything?" "She says it was business." "Do you believe her?" "I want to." He nodded slowly. "I figured you'd say that." "What does that mean?" "It means I couldn't stop thinking about this." He placed a small flash drive on my desk. "What's this?" "Don't ask how I got it." I stared at him. "Marcus." Internal emails. Calendar records. Security logs. My stomach tightened. "I shouldn't look." "You have to." "I don't want to spy on my wife." "You aren't spying." "What am I doing?" "Finding out whether the truth matches the story." I looked at the flash drive for a long moment. "What if you're wrong?" "I hope I am." After he left, the drive remained untouched for almost an hour. Finally, I inserted it into my computer. The first email appeared. Ryan. Victoria. Private strategy meeting. 6 months earlier. I frowned. Another email. Executive mentoring schedule. Ryan Brooks. Approved personally by CEO. Another. Performance bonus. Approved outside the normal review cycle. Another. Leadership succession planning. Ryan's name appeared repeatedly. Mine didn't. I felt my heartbeat growing louder. No. I opened the security footage. The timestamp showed a Saturday. The office was almost empty. Victoria walked into the executive conference room, carrying coffee. Ryan followed. They spent nearly 3 hours inside. No executives. No board members. Just the two of them reviewing confidential planning documents. Another recording. Victoria handed Ryan a folder marked Executive Transition. Another. They laughed together after everyone else had gone home. Another. She introduced him privately to two board members months before his promotion. I leaned back in my chair. Everything suddenly made sense. The promotion hadn't been decided that morning. It had been decided months earlier. I closed my eyes. Every excuse I had made for Victoria collapsed at once. Marcus quietly entered. You watched it. I nodded. I kept telling myself there had to be another explanation. I'm sorry. So am I. What now? I stared at the blank computer screen. I don't know. For the first time in years, I truly didn't know. That evening my phone rang. Dad. Ethan. His calm voice always carried quiet confidence. How are you? I've been better. I heard. I frowned. Heard what? More than you think. I smiled weakly. You always know everything. Occupational habit. Neither of us spoke for a moment. Finally he said, come see me tomorrow. About what? Carter Capital. I blinked. I haven't worked there. You chose your own path. I did, and I'm proud of you. His voice softened. But now I need someone I trust. I sat quietly. We're preparing a major acquisition. You have plenty of executives. I need my son. The words caught me completely off guard. I don't know if I'm ready. You don't have to decide tonight. I'll think about it. I'll be waiting. The next morning, I walked into Carter Capital's headquarters for the first time in years. The lobby felt different from Bennett Technologies. No noise. No politics. Just quiet confidence. A woman approached with a warm smile. You must be Ethan. I am. I'm Emma Collins. She offered her hand. I've heard wonderful things about your work. I laughed softly. That's surprising. Why? Because nobody here knows me. She smiled. I don't need to know your last name. You don't. I'm interested in how people solve problems. I shook her hand. That's refreshing. She picked up a folder. Your father is waiting upstairs. As we walked toward the elevator, she glanced at me. Nervous? A little. Good. I looked at her. The people who stop feeling nervous usually stop growing. The elevator doors opened. For the first time since the promotion, I felt something I hadn't expected. Not anger. Not heartbreak. Hope. I wasn't walking toward another chance to save my marriage. I was finally walking toward a chance to rebuild myself. My office at the top floor of Carter Capital overlooked the city, but my eyes remained glued to the quarterly acquisition reports. The transition is complete, Daniel said, leaning against my desk and handing me a signed folder. I'm stepping back from daily operations starting today. It's all yours, executive managing partner. You're making a mistake leaving me in charge so soon, I replied, signing the bottom line. Nonsense. You built our strongest portfolios. Daniel grinned. Besides, your identity is still private outside these walls. You can hunt in the shadows a little longer. That suits me fine. I closed the folder and looked at Emma, who stood near the door holding a fresh stack of financial evaluations. Emma, what do we have on Bennett Technologies? Their balance sheet is messy, Emma said, stepping forward without hesitation. Marketing claims 30% growth, but their actual software retention is dropping. If we buy them, we need to restructure their leadership immediately. I nodded slowly. Most junior analysts nodded along with whatever executives wanted to hear, but Emma never sugarcoated reality. She had earned my trust precisely because she evaluated companies with cold, sharp intelligence rather than sycophancy. Good analysis, I said. Send a formal invitation for a pitch. Let's see how they handle tough questions. Across town, inside the glass walls of Bennett Technologies, Victoria paced frantically across her office floor while Ryan adjusted his silk tie. Are you sure about this, Ryan? Victoria asked, her voice tight with anxiety. Carter Capital doesn't usually look at mid-sized firms like ours. Trust me, Ryan said, smirking confidentially. I have connections near their board. If we secure Carter Capital's backing, it guarantees our future. It cements your status as CEO and guarantees my promotion to COO. If we fail this presentation, our board will oust me by next month, she murmured, clutching her leather portfolio. We won't fail, Ryan insisted, placing a hand on her shoulder. Just deliver the pitch with total confidence. The new head partner is attending, but nobody even knows what he looks like. He's just another rich suit looking for yield. Show him our numbers, hide the churn rate, and close the deal. Victoria swallowed hard, straightening her blazer. Right. Let's go. An hour later, Victoria stood at the front of Carter Capital's main boardroom, controlling the projector screen. 8 senior partners sat around the massive mahogany table, reviewing her slides. As you can see from our projected Q4 margins, Victoria announced, her voice echoing with practiced charisma, Bennett Technologies represents the premier investment opportunity in enterprise software. Our scalable infrastructure guarantees an immediate return on your capital. She paused, flashing a confident smile at the panel. We are prepared to offer 20% equity for. The double doors at the back of the boardroom clicked open. I walked inside, dressed in a tailored charcoal suit, accompanied by 2 executive assistants. Emma followed right behind me, carrying my tablet. Victoria turned toward the door, her smile firmly in place. Late arrival? Please, take a seat. As I was saying, our growth trajectory. Her voice abruptly snapped off. The laser pointer in her hand jittered violently before slipping through her fingers and clattering against the hardwood floor. Her eyes widened into circles of absolute disbelief. The color drained completely from her face, leaving her ghost white under the fluorescent lights. Victoria, Ryan whispered sharply from the side of the room. What are you doing? Keep going. She couldn't speak. Her lips parted, but no sound came out. She stared directly at me as I casually pulled out the oversized leather armchair at the head of the boardroom table, the seat reserved exclusively for the ultimate authority of Carter Capital. I sat down, crossing my legs, and rested my hands on the polished wood. I met her terrified gaze with a calm, impassive stare. Please continue, Ms. Bennett, I said quietly. You were telling us about your scalable infrastructure. Daniel stood up from his seat beside me and cleared his throat, addressing the stunned room. Before we proceed, Daniel announced, pointing a hand toward me, I want to make an official introduction. As of today, I have officially stepped down from daily management. Every final investment decision, every buyout, and every executive termination across our entire portfolio now belongs exclusively to our new executive managing partner. A suffocating silence descended on the room. Ryan slumped back against the wall, his jaw slack as he looked from me to Victoria. He finally realized who was sitting at the head of the table. Victoria trembled, clutching the edge of the podium just to keep her knees from buckling under her weight. The memory of how she had humiliated me months ago, treating me like a penniless, disposable nobody, hung thick in the air between us. I didn't know, Victoria stammered, her voice cracking as tears of pure panic welled in her eyes. I had no idea it was you. Personal history doesn't belong in my boardroom, Ms. Bennett, I replied coldly, opening her financial file. Your numbers, however, do. My analyst tells me your software retention is dropping rapidly. Convince me why I shouldn't reject your company right now. Victoria swallowed hard, staring at the man who now held the absolute power to destroy her entire future with a single word. We need to clean up these books right now, Ryan hissed, leaning over Victoria's desk and shoving a folder toward her. If Carter Capital's auditors see the Q3 retention gap, this acquisition dies today. I won't falsify reports, Ryan, Victoria said, her voice shaking as she backed away. We're already in over our heads. If we just tell him what? Ryan interrupted harshly. That you fired him months ago, and now he holds your entire life in his hands? Do you think he's going to show you mercy? Cook the numbers, Victoria. It's the only way out. From across town, sitting in my glass office, I listened to Emma summarize their internal panic. Ryan is pressing her hard to scrub the ledger before our due diligence team steps in. Emma said, setting a legal folder on my desk. Should I block their access immediately and expose him publicly? No, I replied, staring at the cityscape below. A public scene just gives him room to hide behind corporate bureaucracy. Authorize a full forensic audit quietly. I want every ledger, every vendor contract, and every expense receipt from the last 3 years pulled by tonight. Consider it done, Emma said. Our forensic team will handle it personally. By Friday afternoon, the audit report sat in my hands. The evidence was damning. It's far worse than simple mismanagement, Emma explained, walking me through the highlighted pages. Ryan didn't just inflate sales figures and manipulate financial reports. He created hidden vendor contracts and funneled hundreds of thousands of dollars through fraudulent executive reimbursements. And he signed off on half of them using Victoria's digital signature. So she had no idea, I muttered, turning a page detailing a fake consulting firm tied directly to Ryan's personal bank account. She trusted him blindly, Emma noted. He used her authority to insulate himself, while convincing her that every operational failure was your fault before you were let go. My phone buzzed on the blotter. Victoria's name flashed across the screen for the 5th time today. She's still downstairs, Emma mentioned softly. She's been asking for just 5 minutes alone with you. She keeps telling reception that she made one terrible mistake and needs to explain. I stared at the phone as it went to voicemail, feeling an old, familiar ache in my chest. I thought having the power to decide her fate would fix how she treated me. I thought showing her who I became would make everything right. Emma leaned against the corner of my desk, her expression gentle and devoid of judgment. You don't need her approval to validate your success, boss. True healing begins when you stop measuring your worth through someone else's choices. You've already proven who you are. Her words grounded me instantly. I took a deep breath, letting the residual bitterness finally drain away. You're right, Emma. Let's finish this. 10 minutes later, I walked into Carter Capital's main conference room, where the board of Bennett Technologies had urgently gathered. Victoria sat near the end of the table, her face pale, while Ryan stood near the whiteboards, attempting to look composed. Thank you for meeting us, the chairman of Bennett Technologies said, standing up. We understand Carter Capital has completed its preliminary audit. We have, I said, sliding the thick blue binder across the table. And the acquisition will proceed, under strictly restructured conditions. Ryan frowned, stepping forward. What does that mean? What conditions? It means Bennett Technologies is being legally acquired at a distressed valuation due to severe internal fraud, I said coldly, fixing my eyes on him. Our forensic team uncovered manipulated sales numbers, unauthorized vendor kickbacks, and systematic embezzlement. Victoria gasped, turning toward Ryan. What? Ryan, what is he talking about? He's lying, Ryan shouted, his voice cracking as the board members hastily opened the binder. He's using his position to destroy us because of a personal grudge. Every document in that folder carries your personal bank routing number, Ryan, I replied calmly, along with corporate credit receipts for expenses you claim Victoria authorized. You didn't just rob your company. You framed your CEO to cover your tracks. Victoria stared at the financial printouts in horror, the reality of Ryan's betrayal crashing down on her. You did this? All this time, you blamed the accounting discrepancies on old management on him? Victoria, listen to me, Ryan started, reaching for her arm. Don't touch me, she screamed, pulling away in utter disgust. She looked up at me, her eyes brimming with tears of shame. I was so blind. I believed everything he said about you, about the company. I am so sorry. Save it, Victoria, I said quietly, keeping my tone strictly professional. The board has already lost confidence in your leadership. Effective immediately, Carter Capital is executing a complete corporate buyout. You will step down as CEO, and Bennett Technologies will be integrated into our main tech division under Emma's oversight. And what about him? The chairman asked, pointing at Ryan. Our legal counsel has already notified state prosecutors and federal regulators, I said, closing my portfolio. Ryan is now the primary subject of multiple corporate fraud investigations. Security is waiting outside to escort him off the premises. 2 uniformed guards opened the conference doors, stepping inside. Ryan's face drained of color as they gripped his arms, pulling him out of the room while he shouted curses down the hallway. Victoria sat frozen in her chair, ruined and stripped of her position, staring silently at the polished table. I turned and walked toward the door, feeling no malice, no triumph, only a quiet, profound sense of peace. My past no longer dictated my future. My office on the top floor of Carter Capital was quiet until the double doors swung open. I looked up from my desk, surprised to see Victoria standing in the doorway. She was alone, her designer coat damp from the rain outside. "Victoria, what are you doing here?" I asked, setting down my pen. She did not answer immediately. Instead, she stepped inside, letting the heavy door click shut behind her. Her hands were trembling as she reached into her coat pocket and pulled out a small plastic card attached to a lanyard. She walked across the hardwood floor and placed it gently on the glass surface of my desk. I recognized it instantly. It was my old employee identification badge from Bennett Technologies, scratched and faded, bearing a younger picture of me. "I found it in your old study," Victoria said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I have been carrying it for weeks." I looked at the badge, then up at her. "Why bring this to me now?" A single tear slipped down her cheek. "Because every time I look at it, I remember what you gave up for me. You spent years staying late in those empty offices, running analysis, fixing my mistakes, and building Bennett Technologies from the ground up. You never asked for equity. You never asked for a title. All you ever asked for was my trust." "That was a long time ago, Victoria," I said quietly, keeping my tone measured. "I know," she sobbed, pressing her hands against her face. "I know it was, but I did not see it then. I was so blind, Julian. I thought Ryan was the genius behind our growth. I thought he was the future. And now, Ryan is gone," she confessed, her shoulders slumping as the weight of her admission broke through her composure. "He drained the reserve accounts and walked away when the audit started. The board found out everything. They held an emergency vote yesterday afternoon." I leaned back in my leather chair. "They removed you as CEO. "They fired me," she corrected, wiping her eyes with the back of her sleeve. "They stripped me of my position, my dignity, and my reputation. The board lost all respect for me, and honestly, I do not blame them. When everything crumbled, I finally had to look in the mirror. I lost my company, I lost my standing, and worst of all, I realized I destroyed the only real thing I ever had." "Victoria," I said softly. "Please just listen to me," she begged, taking a step closer and resting her hands on the edge of my desk. "I was wrong about everything. Ryan was a fraud, but you were the foundation of my life. I finally understand your worth, Julian. I see what you built, not just for Bennett Technologies, but for us." "It took losing everything for you to see that?" I asked. "I know how that sounds, but I swear it is real," she cried, reaching out to grasp my hand. "I am begging you, Julian. Give me a chance to fix this. Let me rebuild our marriage. We can start over. I do not care about the corporate world anymore. I just want us back. I promise I will spend the rest of my life earning your trust back." I looked down at her hand covering mine, then shifted my gaze to the worn plastic badge resting between us. Holding that badge brought back a flood of memories. I remembered the cold takeout coffee at midnight, the endless spreadsheets, and the quiet pride I felt watching her take the stage at industry galas. I had poured my heart and soul into supporting her dreams because I loved her deeply. I would have given her the world back then simply because she was my wife. My heart still remembered that love. It remembered the warmth, the devotion, and the shared dreams we once talked about late into the night. But as I looked at her now, drenched in tears and desperation, I realized something vital. Love was not the issue. Trust was. I slowly pulled my hand out from under hers. I picked up the old employee badge, feeling the rough edges under my thumb, and held it out toward her. "Take this back, Victoria," I said. She stared at the card, shaking her head. "No, Julian. Keep it. It belongs to you." "No, it does not," I replied firmly. "This badge belongs to a man who believed in a future that no longer exists. I loved you with everything I had, Victoria. I really did." "Then why can you not try again?" she pleaded, tears pouring freely down her face. "If you still feel something, why can you not forgive me?" "Because forgiveness and trust are two different things," I explained, placing the badge gently into her palm and closing her fingers around it. "Forgiveness can free the heart from bitterness, and I do forgive you. But forgiveness cannot erase repeated choices. You chose to doubt me, you chose to betray me, and you chose Ryan over us until there was nothing left to choose." Victoria stood frozen, clutching the badge tightly against her chest as my words settled over her. "I can never trust you again," I added softly. She turned and walked away, knowing some opportunities disappear forever once lost. 1 year after taking control, Carter Capital stood at the summit of the industry. Bennett Technologies had officially been transformed into one of America's fastest-growing technology companies, rebuilt entirely under ethical leadership. Yet, as I sat at the head of the conference table reviewing the final quarterly reports, I felt no surge of triumph over the past. Revenge had long lost its taste. Looking over these numbers makes me want to start my vacation a few days early, Daniel said with a warm smile, setting down his pen as he looked across the table at me. The board unanimously approved your transition proposal this morning. I leaned forward, placing my hands on the polished table. So it's official then? You're actually stepping into retirement? It is very official, Daniel replied, his eyes reflecting genuine contentment. I can finally hand over the reins completely, knowing this entire institution remains in safe hands. You did more than turn a profit here, Julian. You restored our integrity. We couldn't have done it without your guidance, Daniel, I said sincerely. Marcus let out a loud laugh from the corner of the room, leaning back in his chair with his arms crossed behind his head. Let's be real for a second, Julian. Getting ousted from your old role was the worst promotion of your life, but it turned into the greatest investment you ever made. I suppose you could put it that way, I laughed, shaking my head, though I wouldn't recommend that career path to anyone. Neither would I, Marcus agreed. So, what is the first major directive from our new permanent CEO? A victory tour? No, I answered, sliding a thin blue folder across to him. We are launching a nationwide initiative. I want to create entrepreneurship grants aimed at supporting young business founders across the country. People who have great ideas but no political leverage or corporate backing. Marcus scanned the document, nodding approvingly. No pettiness, no chest beating, just building up the next generation. I like it. It's time to build things that last for the right reasons, I said softly. Later that evening, the high energy of the office faded into a calm dusk. I walked out onto the private terrace overlooking Boston Harbor, where the cool breeze carried the salty scent of the ocean. Emma was standing by the railing, watching the gentle waves catch the dying golden light of the sun. She had been by my side through every difficult season, every late night, and every grueling restructuring meeting, never once asking for recognition, titles, or promises. I stepped up beside her, resting my elbows on the cold metal rail. Quiet night, Emma said softly, turning her head to smile at me. You should be celebrating indoors with the rest of the executive team. You just made history today. I'd rather be out here, I replied, looking out at the harbor. The noise inside gets a bit overwhelming after a while. You earned every bit of that noise, Julian, she said, her voice filled with quiet sincerity. You built something incredible out of absolute chaos. I didn't do it alone, I said, turning to face her completely. Emma, I realized today that I never properly thanked you. She blinked, looking slightly surprised. For what? I was just doing my job. No, it was far more than that, I said, stepping closer. You stood by me when everything was falling apart. I want to thank you for believing in me during the times when I struggled to believe in myself. It was easy to believe in you, she murmured softly, her eyes holding mine. You just needed time to see what you were truly capable of. I took a deep breath, feeling a profound sense of certainty settle over me. Emma, I want to ask you something, but I need you to know where my heart is first. I am not asking this because I need someone to repair a broken heart. I'm not looking for a savior or a distraction. She remained quiet, waiting, her hands lightly clasping together. I am asking because you have naturally become the safest, most genuine part of my life. I continued, taking her hands into mine. I want to build a real future with you. A life based on mutual respect, trust, and truth. Will you build that future with me? Emma stared at me as a silent tear spilled over her lashes, a soft, radiant smile breaking across her face. Yes, she whispered, her voice trembling with emotion. Yes, Julian, I would love nothing more. I pulled her into a gentle embrace, holding her tight as the ocean wind wrapped around us. Over her shoulder, I watched the final rays of the sun dip beneath the horizon, casting deep purple and crimson hues across the dark water of the harbor. For the longest time, I had believed that victory meant proving my enemies wrong, acquiring the assets that were taken from me, or taking back the very company my ex-wife had once led. But standing here with Emma, surrounded by peace, the truth was finally undeniable. The greatest victory was never about buying a company or proving anything to those who had betrayed me. It was about standing on my own 2 feet, looking toward the future, and finally becoming a man who no longer needed anyone else's approval to know his own worth.